to continue with our leadership webinar series. We have with us today Dr. Surinder Singh, the Vice Chancellor of JSS Academy of Higher Education and Research, who in his administrative and various leadership capacities has served in different positions across in prominent institutions across India. He is a former director at National Institute of Biologicals. Sir has also served as a Drugs Controller General of India, that is at CDCSO. Sir was also the former director at Regional Drug Testing Laboratory Chandigarh, and he started with his being an additional director at CDC Central Research Institute Kasoli. Sir has many awards to his contribution: the BC Rai Memorial Award in 2014, the award for excellent contribution towards providing the leadership on survey of extent of problems of spurious and not of standard quality drugs in the country, Pharma Bio World Awards 2011. And Sir is also recognized as the world's 40 most influential people in the global pharma industry for 3 consecutive years, that is from the year 2011, 10, and 9, 10, and 11. Sir has been associated as head of office with setting up laboratory and animal house facility at NIB Noida. Sir has been instrumental in conceptualization, planning, implementation, and coordination of the 4 national programs of India, which are the Pharmacovigilance Program of India, Hemovigilance Program of India, National Blood Donor Vigilance Program of India, and National Drug Survey to study the extent of problems of spurious and not of standard quality drugs in the country. Sir has served in various capacities as chairman of the Institutional Development Plan Committee of the Government of Punjab. He has also been in the international training programs on good manufacturing practices and public health lab training program. Sir has conducted a lot of good manufacturing practices inspection, and he has many other credits and publications to his credit. It is an honor and privilege to be working and associated with Dr. Surinder Singh as a Vice Chancellor. Sir is an excellent leader, a go-getter, and he knows, he gets the targets. He is a target achiever, I should say. And he takes the team along and understands the team, and has been leading us for the last 2 years. Sir, I request you to kindly deliver the next session on Leaders Lead from the Front. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Prashant. At the outset, I'll convey my respectful pranams to the lotus feet of His Holiness Swamiji, and my greetings to Executive Secretary, sir, and Pro-Chancellor, sir, and good afternoon to all of you. The topic which has been given to me is Leaders Inspire and Lead from the Front. And since I have worked in the government in the various positions, so I thought that in this presentation, I will share my own experiences also, that having worked in the various government positions and working also with the various higher officials in the government of India, like how I have basically gathered certain traits while working with them, which basically make a lot of difference to the institutions, to the organizations where you work. And this all happens if you take the responsibility and you lead the team from the front. Now, the very key to lead from the front is basically, as Dr. Prashant has mentioned, if you would have seen this webinar, it touches upon 8 main topics. And out of that, the serial number 4, that is the one which he has basically kept for me. And when I was discussing with my people who work with me in our office here in JSS and other people back home in Delhi, so they told me that it will be more appropriate if I share my own experiences having worked in various government positions, because almost over last 35 years of my career, I worked in almost 7 institutions, whether it is Medical College Bikaner, which is Government Medical College, or Central Research Institute Kasoli, or Central Drugs Laboratory Kasoli, or Regional Drug Testing Laboratory, or DCJ office, NIB, and now in JSS. So what has been my experiences working with the various leaders and how I could basically share my experiences. And these are basically the experiences which are real lifetime experiences, which you experience in day-to-day life. And we encounter leaders who are basically leading their organizations and teams in their own unique way. And some of these qualities we also intend to pick up. Now, if you see on the screen, there are about 7 styles of leadership: adaptive, persuasive, directive, service, charismatic, disruptive, and authentic. Now, as far as I'm concerned, if I were to pick up one, the style out of it, then the one which is very close to my heart is authentic. Because I personally believe that a leader, to be a leader, should mean what he or she is saying. If as a leader you don't mean what you say, your team will sooner or later come to know that you never meant what you wanted to say. They may not tell you in front of you because you are in the higher position, but they will not give you the best, because, and in this, they are not the loser. I am the loser, because what happens is I lose the credibility in their eyes. For leader, these 7 qualities which are there, I think the one key factor which has to be there is credibility. Their team should trust you that they are in the safe hands and their leader is there to do hand holding for them at every step, and he or she will take the responsibility for the action. And if these qualities are there in any leader, I think any leader or any person can be very successful in his life. And the leaders usually need not be occupying very high positions. They can, as we all know, these leaders can be at all levels. And these qualities also, which I have just enumerated, these also are not to be present in a leader at all the times, because what happens is we have to make use of these qualities at different times, and certain of these qualities, they become more obvious at a particular point of a time than the others also. Another factor which basically governs your leadership style or our leadership style are 3 things: the place, the circumstances, and the time. Now, the style of management and the leadership in Japan would be very different from the style of leadership and management in US. And what is the style of leadership in Europe would be very different, would be from US. And same stands for India also. The type of leadership traits which will be more appropriate for India may not be the ones which are there applicable to Japan, US, or Europe. Some of them, yes, we can take it in. But we have to find what will be more applicable to our people, because our culture is different, our value system is different, and our basically ethos are different. So every society as such has to have a different style of management. That's why the place is important. Second thing is circumstances. The circumstances under which you are placed. Now suppose, I've just given one example, if there is a depression in the market, the circumstances change. The place could be in India only. We are in India, today we had a boom, and now we are going to a depression. And again, there might be a boom. The circumstances changes. So, but the place remains the same. And we as an individual remain the same. But the leadership style would have to accommodate and to change with the challenges which are going to change with the circumstances. And the next thing is the timing. Sometimes the circumstances remain the same, the place is same, but the time changes. And we are placed under different place under different times. So these place, circumstances, and time, they have got a direct relationship with all these 7 traits. And these 7 traits, we have to see which one will be more suitable at a particular point of a time, at a particular place, at a particular circumstances. So there is no hard and fast rule for leadership. Leadership has to be very adaptive, very flexible, depending upon what lies ahead of us. Now let's look at this COVID first wave which we had in 2020. In India, the whole country as one rose to the occasion, and we stood as one country and we faced it very well. Though there was a lockdown in the country, but we had adequate beds created, the ventilators, the other PPE, and other infrastructure which was required was ramped up. We basically took a lot of lead in coming out with the vaccine, even the drugs also. And at that time, we were talking that we will be basically be in a position to export vaccines to other countries. We are in a position to be exporting our drugs to the other countries. That was in 2020. And we had the frontline warriors going and fighting out for us in this the pandemic which had struck us in 2020. And in our JSS AHER, we were not behind it. We also had a leadership, and with the blessings of His Holiness Swamiji, and under his leadership and guidance, with able guidance of our Executive Secretary, our Pro-Chancellor, Dr. Colonel Dayanand, Dr. Basavana Godappa, I think we faced up very well against the COVID challenge which was there in 2020. Even all our teachers, the faculties, HODs, principals, they also rose to the occasion, and we had our teaching process going smoothly. Though most of the faculty for the first time, they had to switch over from offline to online mode of teaching, but they all came up with the flying colors, and we could see to it that our students, they graduate well in time and they get their degrees well in time. And on the left side, we see our COVID warriors. I think our medical healthcare professionals, they adapted to this challenge very fast, though wearing a PP and being in it for 8 to 12 hours is a huge challenge, and one can only make it out once you actually don it and feel it. But then in 2021, the scenario has changed. So as I was telling, the place is same, the circumstances have changed now. It is now 2021, the storm has hit us. And what this storm has done? This storm is a COVID second wave, and it's because of the mutant virus. The virus has changed itself and has come out in a new form, and it resulted in surge in cases. And we see on the right side, we see the number of cases every day was almost as high as more than 350,000 cases per day, which is an all-time high. And this all resulted in acute oxygen shortage, acute hospital bed shortage across the country, remdesivir shortage, amphotericin B shortage, and vaccine shortage. And just a year back, we were thinking of exporting our vaccines and exporting our drugs. So what has happened? The challenges have changed. The circumstances have changed. Now, what has to be done is the different style of leadership is required to manage all this. But what we find is both at the national level, at the state level, and even at our JSS AHER level, we have been able to meet all these challenges. Though there have been all these challenges with regard to, as I mentioned, there has been oxygen shortage, hospital bed shortage, remdesivir shortage, but all these, I think, now are gradually becoming the things of the past across the length and the breadth of the country, and we have been able to overcome all these challenges because it came out of the blue. We were not prepared for it, and neither we were prepared for this mutant virus, which has resulted in a very high mortality also. Though there continues to be a shortage of amphotericin B, but I think along with amphotericin B and vaccine shortage also, it is just a matter of time. We will be turning a corner and we will be self-sufficient in position. So what I intend to say is the challenges can come in different forms. And just over 2 years, we have seen the challenges being thrown at us. But the whole country, our whole leadership, whether it is at the national level, state level, or at our JSS AHER level, has risen to the occasion. I think most of us who are listening over here, we actually saw His Holiness Swamiji visiting to the hospital. He convened a meeting. All of us were there. And not only he talked about preparing for this second wave, but also he talked about preparing for the third wave, which is there. And there was a talk of increasing, and he took a call that we increase the number of oxygenated beds by 300, and also increase the liquid oxygen storage capacity, set up a new oxygen plant, which he personally went to see to the site. And also, besides that, His Holiness Swamiji, along with our Executive Secretary Sir and our Pro-Chancellor Sir and all our medical professionals, took a round of the hospital, took a stock of the position, met the attendants whose relatives, they were admitted in the COVID wards. I think this itself sends a very strong signal in our JSS AHER, and same thing has happened in each state and at the country top level also, where the leadership has risen to the occasion and seen to it that we do measure up to these challenges which are being thrown up by COVID, and we come out with the flying colors. And as it is said, as our former president, late Shri Abdul Kalam ji said, all birds find shelter during rain, but eagle avoids rain by flying above the clouds. Now, what he meant by above the clouds was the problems are common, but attitude makes the difference. And this I will just recapitulate for all of you, all the qualities of the eagle in this small video which I want to show. And we all have to see that we imbibe these qualities which are there in the eagle. this is one lesson which we have learned from Eagle, that the storms will come, but we have to basically anticipate the storms and see to it that how we can use a storm and the winds coming with it so that we rise higher in the life and not be caught down by all these challenges, whether there are challenges like cyclone, tornado, or any other form it might come. We have to see that we rise to the occasion and come out on the top of the situation. Now, there are these 9 attributes and qualities which a leader should have. And this is what I could gather from my own knowledge. And this all, if you see the first letters, they all combine. If you read it, the first capital letters, it becomes the front line. So if a leader has to lead from the front line, he has to have a forward-looking and a focused vision, right choices he has to make in life, observe the things and see the things from 360 degree and gather information from all these angles. He should be non-biased, a timely action he should take, and he should own the responsibility for those actions. He should have a larger perspective of the issues at hand and not be narrow-minded and be bound down by very narrow-ended basically objectives. And I has to replace with we. But this I and we, I think they go hand in hand at times over there. This all also I'll share with you. Never give up attitude. And last is the leader. Above all these 8 qualities, he should also have empathy, a tender heart. And I will give you and share with you my real lifetime experiences during my service, which I have experienced and which I can share with you because I connect with them and they are the ones which have helped and molded me also. And I feel that maybe you can pick up something, some ideas, some leads from there and see to it that how you can best use it for your own purpose and how you can address the challenges which you are facing over there. Now, coming to the first goal was that we should be forward-looking and focused. And we should be focused on the target, what we want to achieve in our life, where we want to go, and what is the challenge in front of us. That is the most important thing. And here it is Arjun and Dronacharya, and Arjun is focused on the eye of the bird. When he was to have Draupadi, he was focused on the eye of the fish. So whether it is the bird or the fish, he focuses on the eye only. He doesn't see anything else. So similarly, the leaders with whom we work, they know which area to focus upon. Out of all the gamuts of the issues which are in front of them, which will be the one which will make the key difference over here. Now, here I would like to give you one example, because this focus acts as a vision for us, a sole vision for us. And here I'll give you one example over here, which I experienced during my time as a Drug Controller General of India. And this is somewhere in 2011. We had one of our additional secretary, Mr. L.C. Goyal, and we were preparing for 12th five-year plan budget, which was from 2012 to 2017. And I, as a DCJ, was to prepare the budget for our CDSO for next 5 years. And our CDSO budget every year used to be about between 24 to 25 crores. So as any person, what I did was, and my team, we took 25 multiplied by 5 and doubled it, and we went to him. We said, sir, this is our budget. And he looked at the budget and he said, this is not the way you should be planning for 5 years. You have got so many challenges in CDSO. And why he meant challenges was that when I took over as the Drug Controller General of India, let me share with you, you see CDSO now, the CDSO of 1st February 2008 was very different CDSO. There has been a WHO National Regulatory Authority assessment in 2007, and CDSO had failed that National Regulatory Authority assessment. And we exported vaccines to more than 100 countries at that time all over the world. And our whole vaccines export was at stake, because countries were asking, if this country's NRA, National Regulatory Authority, that is CDSO, has failed in the assessment of WHO, how we can be sure of its vaccine quality? It was it was a crisis, that there were dark clouds on the horizon. Second thing was, on the strong recommendations of WHO and nudging from the WHO, on somewhere on 14th of January 2008, the manufacturing licenses of 3 of our top vaccine producing units, that is Central Research Institute Kasauli, Pasteur Institute Kunur, and BCG Lab Guindy, they were suspended. And the vaccine production has also been hit very badly, and there was a huge challenge which was there. The CDSO which I inherited, it out of 111 people in position, 111 sanctioned posts, 55 were in position, and out of that 55 also, 9 were to retire just within a period of 1 year. So this was the CDSO which I inherited. And when he was mentioning in 2011, what do you intend to do for CDSO? I think this was weighing in his mind. Just to share with you, in April 2008, when we promoted some of the drug inspectors to assistant drug controller, I only had 8 drug inspectors for whole of the country. Can anybody imagine? Now there are more than 400 drug inspectors in CDSO. And at that time, when I made a proposal for 9 drug inspectors, everybody looked at me that you don't get even one post of a PM in government. How you are going to get these inspectors? But we did get them. That's another thing which I would come separately. But Mr. Goyal, when he was talking what CDSO was at that time. That was gradually coming around the corner. And we could, within 1 year, qualify WHO and RA, and we came out with the flying colors because all of us worked as a team together. But when LC Goyalji was pointing out, he was basically looking forward and looking what CDSO you look at 10 years down the line. And he said, whatever your wish list is there, you put it down. We came back. We put our wish list because whatever maximum we could think of within our context of the country, and what is like we are in the government, so we know what government will approve. So we put up all those proposals, whether it is a new drug testing laboratories or manpower or resources or training. We went back and we put a budget of 700 crores approximately. So he looked at it. He looked at it very thoroughly for about half an hour, studied each and every component. He says, now this looks good. Then he again looked at us with a very sharp, focused eyes. He said, what is your vision for the future? Then he told me, you have traveled as a DCGI to many countries. You have seen the most developed regulatory agencies. You have seen France regulatory agency, AFSAP, this US FDA, Japanese. So why can't you think of that where you want to see your Central Drug Standard Control Organization and the state drug controller organizations maybe 10 years down the line? Don't limit your thinkings, go back and plan. And let me tell you, we came back, we tried to put all the things which we had seen in the world over and what we could think of will propel our country to have the best regulatory agency in the world within a period of 10 to 15 years. And we came with a budget of 6,300 crores. And he looked at the budget. Out of this 6,300 crores, 3,200 crores was to be for the CDSO and remaining amount for the states as such. So he looked at the budget. He said, now I am happy. And let me share over here is that this budget went to Planning Commission. It got approved and it was approved for the 12th 5-year plan. Whatever figure we had given, it was approved. And out of that, 1,800 crores was sanctioned to CDSO. 1,800 crores was sanctioned, out of which 950 crores went to CDSO, 850 crores to the states as such. And now this is the money which is available, but they have said this will be a non-relapsing budget. So this budget will be available for them. So this is what I meant when I am saying forward and focused looking, because he was focused on the future and also forward looking. And he didn't want to focus on any other thing. He wanted to have the CDSO to the best regulatory agency in the world. And this Mr. LC Goyal later on, let me tell you, he became the Home Secretary of Government of India during Modiji's time. Next, I would come is the right choice. Now, whenever you are basically planning for all activities, there will be challenges, and challenges are inevitable no matter whatever you do. And for challenges, if they are in front of you, you also have got choices. And you have got choices to pick the right people with the right stuff and put them in the right place with the right time. Now, this again, I will share with you that I was called by the ministry because there was this drug survey thing which was going on between CDSU and various other departments that there should be a drug survey be done. And at that time, I was a director NAB. So the joint secretary at that time, he called me, he said, you do the drug survey. I said, I'm not the Drug Controller General of India. It is not my job because I'm a director NAB. And after a lot of persuasion, they said that you go ahead and do it. Now, why nobody wanted to do this drug survey was, just let me give you a background. In this drug survey, more than 47,000 drug samples were to be collected. And from 676 districts of the country, more than 1,000 drug inspectors were to be deployed for this. And along with that, 1,000 NGO people were to be deployed. And even with the help of our Pro-Chancellor, who also happens to be the President of Pharmacy Council of India, we basically inducted a lot of pharmacy faculty also into this survey, and sir was very helpful during that time. And Not only that, we were to do the sampling from 6,500 chemist shops all over the country, besides tracking the shipment of these samples and getting all these 47,000 samples tested 100%. Now, some of the drugs, they've got 8 tests to be put up, some have got almost 12, some have got even 18 tests, but 100% testing was to be done. It's not that we do 2-3 testing and then we pass the drug. It's not like that. So who is to handle this challenge? Then it was given to me. The first thing which I asked the government was that, okay, you are giving me the drug survey and this has to be completed within 2 years. So I told them, I will pick up my team. You are not going to thrust people on me. I will pick up my team. And let me tell you honestly, I picked up the right people. Ministry gave me a free hand, and this drug survey will complete within 2 years. And also we had put a proposal of 8.5 crores for doing this survey. Ministry straight away, without even once, because of 8.5 crores is a huge amount of money. Usually the files go up and down. With one stroke, this 8.5 crores was approved and given to us. They said, you do the drug survey. And we did the drug survey and we spent 7 crores and 8.5 crores was returned to the ministry. So this comes getting the right people, right stuff, right place, right time. I'm not going to the details of it, but this drug survey we could do. And it involved a lot of institutions into doing this drug survey. And this I will cover up in the next topic, which is there. That is observation and 360-degree information. Now, whenever you are planning anything of this scale, you have to have not a tunnel vision. You have to look at it, what lies behind this, what you see. And you might find there are immense challenges and possibilities which lie hidden from your vision. And there are a number of steps which you have to take to come to a conclusion. You have to identify and take the decision, gather information, identify alternatives, weigh the evidence, choose among alternatives, take action and review your decision. Now, when this drug survey, which I am carrying forward, because this was one of the most challenging things, we have to take call that we basically take a 360-degree view. So what we thought is, who are all the stakeholders for this drug survey? And we found that it could be Central Drug Standard Control Organization, the state drug controllers, the central drug testing laboratories, state drug testing laboratories, WHO, ministry, and we also went out and thought there will be 2 departments whose help which we need is the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. The sampling has to be done in a random manner because there were 15 therapeutic categories of drugs with almost 284 molecules which were to be sampled from 676 districts. And when we were planning this survey, one issue which we came up was, and which I say we have to take a 360-degree view, was that we do the surveys, we do the activities, but who criticizes us the most? And it came out that civil society will be after us. That when you did this drug survey, the drug inspector already knew that which chemist shop he is going. He already told the chemist that I am coming over there, so you be ready. The chemist was already removed, already alerted. He had removed the drugs which are not of standard quality and he's put all the drugs over there. Or drug inspector goes to the shop and he picks up the drugs which are in front of it and he packs it and sends it to us. Or the drug inspector, he has got some grudge against the chemist. He changes the drugs and sends something else, so the chemist gets into the problem. All these permutations and combinations, they were thought of. And then at that time, we decided that let's have each NGO person accompany the drug inspector. So let the critic be the partner. And this is how we decided that with each drug inspector, they will go as a team. One NGO person will be going along with him. And this is how the drug survey was done. And we made the critic as a part of it. And this is how we saw to it that we take a 360-degree view. Now, coming to the next topic, which I would say is I've already covered 360-degree view and taking the right decision. Then coming to the non-bias. So whenever the leader has to take a decision, he should not go by a preconceived notion in decision making, because if he does, he has got a bias, and this will basically result in a non-biased decision, and the decision will not be judicious. Here I will again give you one example, that when I used to work with one of our joint secretary, Mr. B.K. Prasad, in 2007, I had been deputed to Central Research Institute, Kasauli, for deputation for almost on a yearly basis. My deputation had ended, and the same day in the evening, I walk into his office, sir, my deputation period has ended. And this fellow, he looks at me with a strange look. You are coming and telling me at 6 in the evening that your deputation period has ended, but we want you to continue over there and we want you to be around, because I was basically involved in revamping and expanding the Central Drugs Laboratory over there. And what amazed me most was he called whether the undersecretary is there. He had gone. Deputy secretary, he has gone. His own PS has gone. Then he thought for some time, and then he was saying, if I don't give extension now, then from tomorrow again the entire exercise has to start again. Then what he did was he just got up from his seat, and I was surprised, where is he going? He sat on the desktop in front of his table which was there, typed a letter in front of it, signed and gave it to me. This is your extension order. And he called his PN and said, fax this to Director CRI Kasoli and tell him that this is an extension order. And he said, rest approvals, I will take it on. Now, what I learned from him is that he was not biased by his stature. He was a joint secretary. I was just a middle level officer, a government of India's officer, but he did not allow his stature and my position come in his way, because what he, as a leader, what I could see in him was what has to be achieved, as I mentioned earlier. So these traits, they don't come in a way of the leaders who are there. And I can also share with you, later on, he went on to become additional secretary in the Ministry of Home Affairs also, because what happens, these are the type of people who basically rise much higher in their life. Then the next step is timely action responsibility. Here also I share one more challenge with you, because what they say is time and tide waits for none. And what we have to do is basically work and action have to meet within a timelines. And if you meet it within a timeline, it averts a crisis. Here again, I'll give you one small example. This was 2010, because all these incidents I don't forget, and all they were challenging in their own way. Because what I could gather from my people with whom I'm interacted is, sir, you tell what you have faced in your life. Otherwise, we can find everything in the video, in the books, and it's available on the net, because we want to hear what is a real life like situations where the challenges are there thrown up and how you face them, these challenges. Now, in this, what happened, our joint Secretary Health at that time, 2010, Dr. Sujata Rao, she called me in our office and she said, there is a NGO which has contacted me, and there is a child, laborer's child, admitted in St. Stephen Hospital in Delhi, who has got trypanosomiasis. And I'm told this disease is not seen in India. It's a very rare disease. It is basically seen in animals in our country, but human cases are not reported. And the drug which is required for its treatment is not available. And the pediatrician, the head of department, tells me, child has got just 36 hours to with him. This NGO people have come. Now you are the Drug Controller General of India. See what you can do. This drug is not available, and see whether we can get the drug for the child. So I went back to my office, and what I did was I called my team over there, and I said, you see, Secretary to Government of India has reposed trust and confidence in us, that we as a drug control officials, we have to see to it, we have to use our best connectivity network within the country and all over the world, that we get the drugs for this child within the timeline of 36 hours. So let us have our internal timeline of 24 hours. Now, and let's see how we do it. And I feel very proud of all my people with whom I worked in CDSO. They said, sir, you don't worry. You rest assured, drug will be there. And you kindly attend to your duties, leave it to us, and we will get it done. And let me tell you, by the night fall, somewhere I think about 2:30 or 3 in the morning, there was an SMS message. They were so courteous people, they did not call me also. They said, you leave it to us. Sir, you did not bother about us. We will manage it. At 2:30 at night, I am receiving a call. I am receiving SMS. So the drug has landed at Indira Gandhi International Airport. Our person is collecting over there through customs. And then another message comes after about half an hour. So drug is on ways to its St. Stephen. Another one comes after about an hour or so, about in the morning, it's about 5:30. So drug has been handed over to the resident who is there at the St. Stephen Hospital. So I felt so elated and proud of it. And I took my two people who were with me to the secretary and said, ma'am, the drug has been delivered. And she was very happy with that. And let me tell you, the drug was airlifted from Africa, one of the African countries, and it landed in Delhi. And next day in the morning, the consignment also landed from Germany also. So that is the leadership. It's not only me, the team itself, they were the leaders at their own way. So it's a collective team work. And what I feel is, Each individual is a leader in its own way. And when they say, sir, you need not worry, we will get you the drugs. And I've tested them many times, our own CDSO people. What I've seen is that you just have to tell them this is what has to be done, and it is done. And this is, I think, all about leadership, what I feel, and which I thought. And that's why the child life was saved. After 1 week, the secretary again called me. The child has been discharged because I'm told it's about 1 week treatment, which is there. Pentamidine, other drugs, they were not available at that time. But I was scanning the literature before coming over here. I've seen there are isolated cases reported in 2018 in Pediatrics Journal, that there are isolated cases reported in India also, and one was reported from Surat also. Then another thing which a leader has to have is a larger perspective of life and larger perspective of the thing. And it does not have to go with one individual, but one has to think of the whole organization and how this impact is not only at the local level, at the national level, but we have to think of the global level, and we have to look at the bigger picture. Now here, let me give you an example. As I said, we had failed in, we basically did not, we don't use the word fail, we use the word disqualified. Indian NRA had been disqualified by WHO. And though we qualified within a 1 year time and this crisis was over, and now we have been consistently been doing very well, exceedingly well. I think the last was in 2017. Now, at that time, each one had its own perspective that how we should be fixing our own CDSO and its own problems over there. And at that time, the then secretary at that time, Mr. Naresh Jali, called my joint secretary, Mr. Devashish Panda, who happens to be the Financial Services Secretary. Presently, he's the Financial Services Secretary of Government of India. And he called both of us and he said, how this can be done. And he told me that I'll send you to Canada. I said, if I go to Health Canada alone, that's not going to help us. Our policymakers should go with us, because if I come back and ask you something, you will not be able in a position to give it. If my joint secretary also goes with me, that will be more worthwhile. So both of us were sent to Canada. And there I'll tell you one example, small story. We saw the Health Canada, we saw all the infrastructure. Then we went to Geneva also, and we found out what is required for our team. But how to get the system going over there? We had a WHO person over there. I was sitting in the lobby of a Western Hotel there in Ottawa, and he came across, I still remember 5 in the evening, and there was a slight sunshine which is coming into the room. He sat down next to me and he said, Dr. Singh, what is your wish list for your CDSO? And you tell me. So a little bit I was hesitant. What I will tell him, that what wish list is there. He said, don't feel hesitant. You tell me what is your wish list. I kept on enumerating him that I need that my people who are there working in the biological division, almost all of them should be getting exposure in Health Canada. They not for 1 week, they should come here for 2 weeks, because if they see how Health Canada is functioning, they can help me in fixing up the system back. And also they should be sent for 2 weeks to Geneva, because WHO comes for audit. So how WHO thinks, how WHO looks at the dossier, what type of system they are looking at. So once they go to WHO headquarters Geneva, then they will be able to make it out. And this should be followed up by training for almost 1 year for my people over here. And he kept on jotting down all these activities, and ultimately it came to $120,000 US, $120,000 US. And he asked me to sign, and all this he was writing on a tissue paper, because we were having coffee. There was a tissue paper, he was writing on it. And on that tissue paper, he asked me to sign it. So I signed it and also put a time and date on it. He also put a sign and date on it. And he said, you take it. Your money will come to you. And after that, I think within just a month's time, almost all my staff from biological division of CDSO, they were all sent to Health Canada. Then they went to Geneva. And after that, I think there has been no looking back of CDSO. If COVID was not there, you would find almost 40% of CDSO traveling abroad. So it basically started that journey on this, and our whole perspective changes that what we want to do. It's not that everybody had an opinion, but what happened is they had to look at the larger perspective where we can make a global impact. And that was basically exposing all the team, all people who are there in the laboratories, which are all the health regulatory agencies, which are the best in the world over there. And just on the sidelines of it, I came back. I have got that tissue paper framed and kept over there. that for making changes, you don't need boardroom meetings, very elaborate discussions, meeting after meeting. If there are committed people, if they sit down together, even a paper napkin can change the entire scenario of the system as such. And I kept it. I hope the CDS is still keeping it, but I've given it to them because, and the signatures and everything are still over there. And that person, Mr. Laurie Bargabi, he had also taken a snap of it. He said, when I will write the book about my tenure in WHO, I'm going to put a photograph of it. And this is how the changes come. So I thought I'll share these thoughts with you. Then I replaced with the we. Now this again, I will also share another small story with you, because what happens is I feel both I is also important and we is also important. I'll briefly recapitulate it for you. I had gone to Netherlands in 2016 to attend WHO's National Control Laboratories for Biologicals meeting. This was the first meeting. This was a meeting, basically a brainstorming session, which WHO had called at Bilthoven in Netherlands, in Netherlands, just outside Amsterdam, to have this brainstorming for 3 days. And in that brainstorming, once it ended, they said, now it was decided that we are going to have these regularly after every 2 years, like a biennium or biennial meetings of the National Control Laboratory for Biologicals, all one by one in each country. And this meeting was going on, all 24 countries, National Control Laboratory heads were there, even manufacturers associations were there, GSK, Sanofi, all these people were there on the board, big hall and was there, and it was the last day. So they basically asked which country or which organization is willing to host the first meeting. So there was a silence and everybody was looking at each other. In that split second, just a thought crossed my mind that we have got one of the best this biological testing laboratory in the world. Because NIB, I request all of you, if you get an opportunity, you go and see NIB. NIB laboratory is 128 crores, designed by National Institute of Health, US. It's a world-class laboratory which is there. So I thought I have got it, but world doesn't know it. It gives me an excellent opportunity that I showcase my strength in the biologicals and the biological testing to the world. Because what happens is vaccines and biologicals from our India go to large countries of the world. Now, these very regulatory agencies, national control laboratories, are supposed to test it. Once they have seen my laboratories, once they have seen my functioning, then our products could move in the international commerce much more easily. This all happened within 1 minute in my mind. So I raised my hand. I said, we will do it, and we will host the first national control laboratory meeting. But I kept a rider. This I say in principle, but it is subject to confirmation by Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India. Everybody agreed. Oh yes, we can understand. You have to take a government's permission. I came back. I took government's permission. I persuaded them why it has to be done, and there we did it. But to do this meeting, we had to have a world-class conference room. We had to have a world-class cafeteria. We have to have a world-class hostel. And this, I called my team over there, and we laid a timetable for them that we have to have a world-class conference room, cafeteria, everything to be done. And it's my team. They joined hand. And again, if you see, I think the conference room, which I have got, or I created at NAB, none of the corporate sector in India has got that conference room. The only corporate sector conference room which can beat my NAB's conference room, I can vouch, is only one, that is Serum Institute of India. That is a different world itself. But my conference room, if you see, it is the latest with the latest gadgetry, and it is not done by some private contractor, it is done by CPWD. And it is all a teamwork. And when WHO came over there, our program was so nicely organized, whether it is our guests, all the WHO people, whether it is from and the European Union people and people from US, they prefer to stay in my guest house rather than stay in a 5-star hotel. They said, you got a beautiful guest house. And the cafeteria, they were also full of praise. And also the conference room also. And at the end of the 3 days conference, which we had in from somewhere, I think 29th or 30th of October to 2nd of November 2017, the entire people from 20 countries and 4 observers and other participating manufacturer association, they gave a standing ovation to our team over there. So that's the team spirit. So it is both because in Netherlands, it is me only, it's not my team. So I have to take a call. I have to raise my hand. But how I can deliver? It's my team which delivers. Again, I said the drug was airlifted from Germany and Canada. I did not do it. It's my team did it. So the team spirit, ultimately the team matters, and the child's life was saved over here. Then coming to the never give up attitude. This is also an attitude which I would like to share with you. And here I will go beyond my own story. Here I will give you one story where the attitude that just don't quit, but just do it. And here I'll give you an example that when the leaders, they basically have this thing in them that they are never going to give up, it can result in miracles. And here I'll give you a small story which is very dear to me, and it is not from my side. It is what I read in about creation of Israel. If you have ever happened to read the book O Jerusalem by Dominic Lepre and Larry Collins, in that he mentions that there was going to be voting for creation of Israel in 1946, and all countries of UN were to vote for it. And David Ben-Gurion and Golda Meir, they were at that time the leaders of the country, and they were deliberating, and the voting was the next day. And they could find that they are still short of more than 35 votes, or maybe even larger number of votes. And if this happens, then in the voting next day, they will lose. Israel will never be created. And they were desperate because the Second World War had just finished and 6 million Jews has perished into it. So Jews needed a nation which they could call their own country. So they were desperate and they could not figure out how to get these 35 or 36 votes because they did not have that strength at that time to have the voting done by the various countries as such. Then it struck to one of them in the team that Harry Truman, who is the president of the country at that time, he has got a friend who has got a darning and dry cleaning business in US. And both Harry Truman and he are fast friends. And they have been friends since childhood, ever since they started the business. He continued to have his own small business, but Harry Truman went on to become the president of the country. But they still meet every fortnight or once in a month, and they exchange pleasantries. And they are still very good friends. And he has got a direct access to White House. So at late in the evening, because it's almost night at Israel, they call him up, and it's still night at US also. And he's woken up by one of his friends who is known to him. And they convince him, they ask him that we want you to contact Harry Truman and ask him to help us to get these more than 30 countries to come around and to vote for creation of Israel. And that fellow refused. He said, I never in my life ever asked Truman for any favor. They're just friends. And he's a president of US. I'm not supposed to ask him anything. And it's the middle of the night. How can I wake him up? But they persuade him and they tell him all what has happened to the Jews in Second World War and why it is important, what is happening in Palestine. Ultimately, he gets convinced. And you're not doing it for ourselves or yourself. We are doing it for our own Jewish state, for our own Jewish people. So it's for our own people we are doing it. He gets convinced, and at night he picks up the phone and calls Harry Truman. Now, nobody calls presidents of US at night. But President of US, Harry Truman, had left instruction that if I don't recall the name of the person, that if this person calls, you're supposed to wake me up and connect the call. Otherwise, he is not to be woken up. And when the call came, he said, I want to talk to Harry Truman. And since the instructions were there, they woke Harry Truman. And Harry Truman was basically very startled. He thought that something has happened to my friend. So he came rushing to the phone and is everything okay? He said. Then they conversed with each other. Then he said, Harry Truman, as a friend, I have to ask you one favor in life, which I thought I should ask. Then he tells him what he wants. Harry Truman doesn't say anything. He says, you go and sleep in the bed and you will have the votes. And he keeps the phone down. Then he picks up the phone and calls Secretary of State of the US and he tells, tomorrow morning, all these countries which are there, we should have so many X number of countries which are required to have this creation of Israel. And then he keeps the phone, he goes to bed. And the Secretary of State now gets down to his own business. All over the world, ambassadors are woken up, dragged out of their bed. The presidents of the countries are woken up. They are all like African countries, as America has got a lot of interest at that time in 1946, 47. Those presidents are woken up. They are given a direction. You tell your diplomats that tomorrow morning, they should be voting for Israel. And next day when the voting was there, Israel got created. That is the attitude. Just do it. Never give up. That is the one thing which I want to share with you. And here also, I'll take 5 minutes extra. Just one small story also I'll share with you. when we had, as I was telling you, we had 68 we had only 8 drug inspectors. We were basically in a very, very bad situation at that time, because how to run a country with just 8 drug inspectors in 2008, that is April 2008. So we got 65 posts of drug inspectors, 69 posts of drug inspectors sanctioned. And when we went to UPSC for this post, they said your turn is after 3 years. We got all other government departments in queue. Your turn will come after 3 years, and that also, first these people have to appear in the written test, and then there will be interviews, and maybe your drug inspectors will be in position after 4th or maybe 5th year as such. And we came back, my joint secretary and myself, we said, but my joint secretary, who happens to be now, as I said, he was a financial services secretary, he said, no, we are not going to let it go. We went to our secretary, both of us, he said, you come along with us. We said, sir, we have to do something. We have to convince UPSC that we need these inspectors. Even if they have to waive off the written test, let them do it, but we need these inspectors, because we can't run the country like this, because we have to ensure that the quality of the drugs are nowhere compromised, because drug inspectors are cutting edge posts over there. Then along with the secretary told us to draft a letter. We drafted a letter, got it signed, went to secretary UPSC at that time, Mr. Rawat, who later on became an election commissioner, one of the election commissioners, went to him, convinced him why we need it. Then he listened to us for almost 45 minutes. And then he said, okay, fine, let me take a call. And let me tell you, in the UPSC, I think I don't recall, that is the only time when no written test was held up. And 5 boards were, because the number of applications is almost 3,000-4,000 for 69 posts. And the number of applications, so 5 boards were created. Interviews went off almost, I think, more than 14 days or 10 or 14 days. All those candidates were interviewed. And these 5 boards almost functioned from morning till evening. 69 drug inspectors were shortlisted and sent to CDSU. All those drug inspectors which came to CDSU in 2009, they have not appeared in any written test. And they are there in our CDSU. This is again an attitude, never give up. There will always be a solution. And this I'm telling you, why I'm telling you this thing is, this I'm telling you the government sector, where they say government doesn't work. I tell you government does work. You have to believe in yourself, you have to have a conviction, and you should be able to put the things to the government in the right manner. So government also works, but what happens is, it is how you put across the things to them. The last thing which I'm telling is empathy, which is very important, because empathy is the main thing, where we put ourselves in somebody else's shoes and try not to judge the person. This is another example which I would like to give you. This was somewhere in 2010. I was sitting on, this was a Sunday, we were sitting in our CDSU office on Sunday itself, and there was a large commotion outside my room. And one fellow was shouting at a very loud voice, and somebody was also trying to calm him and trying to give him some sort of a countering of what he was saying. I walked out and I saw there was Sardarji, he was about 17 and 80 years of age, very elderly person. He was shouting at one of my own officials that you people, you are not giving me license, I will die, I got medicine only for 1 week. You people keep on telling me this drug is available in the market, it is not available in the market. And he was a CGHS beneficiary, that Sardarji. And both my wife and I, we are heart patients, we need this drug. And the fellow was badly agitated, Sardarji. I went to him, I said, Sardarji, because the first thing when he said, I'm a heart patient, I myself had a fear that he should not have some problem over here in my office. I went down, cooled him, I said, Sardarji, come over here. I took him to my room, made him sit over there, asked my person PN to give him a cup of tea, biscuits. I said, now you tell me your story. What was happening was, he had been written some drug over there, which was not available in the market. When he will come to CDSU, the official who was basically looking after it, when they would look at their documentation, they said, we have given a license for this drug. So if we have given a license, the drug would be available in the market. You go and buy it from the market. I cannot give you a personal license if a drug is available in the market. But they did not try to find out whether drug is available in the market or not. Then I told him, you sit down over here. Then I called another official and told him, find out who we have given the license. And within 15 minutes, they came, such and such company has been given the license. I said, type a letter, get it signed from me. I called the assistant drug controller sitting at Ahmedabad, and he now happens to be deputy drug controller and also one of our adjunct faculty. He can tell you the story in his own way also. I'm telling you in a very milder manner. So the letter was typed. I called him up. I said, you got a half an hour. Within half an hour or even lesser time, you let me know whether this company is producing drug or not. Within 20 minutes, he came back with a fax was sent to me. This drug, the company has got a license, but is not producing the drug. I called the official. I said, the company is not producing the drug. Give him the personal license. Within, I think, 45 minutes, Sadarji, who has been coming over there for almost a month's time, within 45 minutes, he had this slip in his hand. And he thanked us very profusely. He said, I have also served in government of India many years, but I've never seen government working like this. So that is what I want to share with you, that if we want to change the system, I always tell people, for Mr. T.N. Session, no new book was written. The code of conduct for any election commissioner, the book was already there. What did T.N. Session do? He just opened up the book and implemented the rules. So rules and regulations are there. It's just that we don't want to implement them because we shy away from facing the facts. We want to be nice to everybody. We want to be goody to everybody, but we don't want to take the bull by the horn and try to change the system. So I think one of the qualities of leadership is that you need a courage of conviction over there. And these are the 9 qualities which are mentioned. And these are the leaders basically whom I all admire, that they are the ones who are the builder of the modern India. And this is an example even His Holiness Swamiji was also sharing about ISRO, and he is our Mr. Satish Dhawan. And in the words of Mr. APJ Abdul Kalam, that whenever failure occurred, the leader took it upon himself. And when the success came, he gave it to his team. And if the team trusts you and the leader owns the responsibility and takes the accountability, I think the team does wonders. And we are very blessed. And I personally feel I'm very blessed that I have an opportunity at almost after my career in the government to serve in JSS, the Academy of Higher Education Research, and serve in JSS Mahavidya Peeth, and be at the lotus feet of His Holiness Swamiji. As I mentioned earlier, like he's a leader in his own right, and I'm too small a person to describe it. And now to conclude, now there will be challenges, and we are not like basically challenges don't define us, but our actions do define what are the challenges. And if our choices, if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are the leader. And that's what we thought. And the last thing which I want to tell you is that it is always said the lion is the king. But I was reading that lion is not the fastest animal. Neither it is the wisest of the animal. And neither is the largest of the animal. But it is still the king. Why is it a king? Because lion is courageous. It takes risks and it knows when to go for it. And this is my favorite saying, who dares wins. And these 3 words, they make all the difference. And these 3 words are in the logo of the para commandos of British Army. Who dares wins. And if any one of you listening to this talk, if you are dreaming of making a new beginning, a new journey as a leader at your own end, all the best from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. We thank you very much, sir, for your perspectives on leadership and how leaders should be inspiring and lead from the front. We heard a lot of experiences under different circumstances and what influenced those decisions and how it can impact and influence people and the society. We are indeed privileged to have you at JSS and learn from your vast experiences in different capacities at different offices and learn from your leadership styles. Your focused leadership has helped us move further, and we are confident of scaling new heights. Thank you very much, sir.